that we've had this evening at RACE9. We're here at the wonderful twin ring Motegi circuit, actually a former NASCAR circuit at that. We're here today on the Grand Prix layouts for some GT Asia action, of course based on the real life Super GT series, and we're on the road course circuit here today. 14 turns, 4.8 kilometers at that, the race lap record being from Kamui Kobayashi in the 2020 Super Formula. Won't quite be getting to those heights today around this 2-minute 06 lap time circuit, according to Sven Gullerhud's banker lap time. Sven Gullerhud being the championship leader in this wonderful series in the GT3 category. Of course, there's GT3 and GT300, and he leads the championship with 75 points, having won every single round apart from one in this season. This is round 5 of 10, as we mentioned. As you can see, Sven Gullerhud's wonderful BMW GT3 machine with 21 minutes to go in the session. He's got an 11-second buffer to Ross Clark in second position. Ross Clark being the man who won the GT300 race last time out. Of course, GT300 being the Subaru. And, a wonderful little racing machine that is at that. It's going to be a 150-kilometre race this evening, and that's 32 laps. As you can see, Ross Clark and Valente trump that time from Gullerhud with 150.8 and 150.9 respectively. Of course, Valente also being in the Subaru. So I'm joined today by Constantin, once again, Constantin Grimminger, who joined me.
Everyone. Sorry. Good start.
Little bit of a premature entry there, but nonetheless, welcome to the stream, Constantin. How are you feeling ahead of today's race?
Very. I don't know exactly how to describe it. Usually, I would be on track right now and perhaps try to put my car in somewhat around the fringes of top 10. But yeah, I think we're gonna have a really good show for today. We have, I think, 19 or 18 cars on track. I'm not completely sure about that. But anyways, it's gonna be a very, very good one with the GT3 cars and the GT300 cars. I'm just quickly gonna search for one. Having very similar lap times at the top, so we're gonna see a very good fight for the lead, I assume, or at least I hope so.
Of course, different simulator to what we were on earlier today with the NASCAR. That was about 40 minutes ago when Joe Goldsteitis, apologise for the spoiler for anyone who's watched that back, took the victory there in quite emphatic fashion. A bit more of a competitive series we've got in GT Asia, some would argue, with obviously two classes, though it's not quite the traditional endurance style of two classes. They're very, very similar on pace, the Subaru being just a little bit faster in its natural state than these wonderful GT3 cars. You're looking at Craig Southern in one of these Subarus in the GT300 class. He's currently all the way down in P8, though not quite at the peak of what that racing machine can do. I'm sure he'll be waiting to pull off a little bit of a better lap time in that particular car. Of course, Twin Ring Motegi being famous for its oval circuit, its super speedway, which is a 2.493 kilometre circuit. But today we're not quite on such an oval circuit, as we're racing, of course, the traditional road course layout, the Grand Prix circuit. And Craig Southern is into the pits. Into the pits as well, is Alessandro Valente, who's in position 2 right now in the GT300 class as well. I believe he's in the GT300 class. I'll check. Yes, he is, according to my race view. My race view, which is working today, actually. We'll have a look. Sven Gullerhud is in P3. He's leading the GT3 class. Once again, it's been an absolute dominant performance in the championship so far. That being said, he is only 25 points ahead of Lucas Miranda, who's in P2. So we do apologise for the flash transition that we've got here on Assetto Corsa. It's unfortunately one of those things that happens in the game. There's not really much we can do about it. Here is Sven Gullerhud in that BMW machine. He is in Full Commitment Racing, the number 15 car. And well, it is a lovely car indeed. In fact, he's in a stock skin now. I apologise.
Yes, I was just about to say that.
It's not actually number 15. I'll try and let you know what number he actually. It's 151 point. What was that? Sorry.
74.
74. There we go.
Yes.
and he hasn't quite had a delivery yet. Perhaps it's serving him a good omen, as he has picked up a hat-trick of wins in the previous 3 of 4 rounds. Looking good to do that again today. He seems to have a lot of pace over the rest of the GT3 field, who about 6 tenths down on him in that moist race in the Audi R8 LMS 2016 car. Of course, Assetto Corsa, this being the original Assetto Corsa, has got a similar number of GT3 cars, ironically, to Assetto Corsa competitors Dillon, which is the GT World Challenge official game. So, of course, we're kind of mirroring Super GT here, which is the Japanese series, hence GT Asia. And that being said, we have got 2 races later in the season that aren't actually in Asia. That's Nürburgring and the Lauchring, I believe. And there will be 2 interesting races to watch nonetheless. But we're focusing on here right now as Pablo Lopez goes through the incredible lens flare of the floodlights. And, he's in P12, 3.8 seconds behind his GT300 compatriots. And, he doesn't look to be particularly on top of that car in the early stage of this qualifying session, Constantin.
I have to admit that I wasn't entirely paying attention because I'm trying to get the word out about the stream. I'm sorry, but yeah,
it's my fault. I thought you'd already done that.
I can. No, it's all good. I can bring in some lore about the new livery that these guys are sporting at CMP Corsa. At least the GT300 cars, you can see the blue and white Motul sponsored car for the number 53. Apparently, Pablo Lopez, and we're gonna search for the other car. I think that's number 17. Carlos Frau. If he's on track, it's basically the similar one, but of course in orange instead of blue. Here we go. Got him.
And Carlos Frau, of course, coming from a spectacular P2 at our NASCAR race earlier this evening. And as we said, this is the second race in our double header evening we've got for you this wonderful Saturday. So, he's making his way through a very slow, as my stream has crashed here a second, so I'm trying to commentate on pictures that I can't fully see. This is Moises Reis, who's still having a little bit of a difficult time. He's in P4 though now in the Audi, and Sven Gillehud has actually got ahead of Valente and is now into P2 with a 2,000th of a second gap to position 3. Of course, that GT3 car splitting the 2 GT300 Subarus quite nicely, and still haven't quite got enough for Ross Clark, who got the overall win last time out, as we said. The GT300 Championship standings, we haven't actually touched on them, are led by Carlos Frau, who's got 88 points and has picked up 3 wins this season out of the 4 rounds. Pablo Lopez is in second position in those championship standings with 76 points, picking up a hat-trick of second places before a third place at Okayama last time out. And then Ross Clark has only done 2 races of the championship with a P3 and a win. So there is Valente, who only actually raced last time, and it says he's British on the wiki, but I imagine he's Italian if I'm mistaken. And he's only on 20 points after that 2 second place finish last time out. And, he's looking to continue that momentum. I don't think he's going to quite have enough for Ross Clark as he improves in this little ding-dong battle he's having with Sven Gillehud. As we continue to wait as the clock ticks down in this qualifying session. 13 minutes left, almost exactly as I say this, in the qualifying session. Of course, qualifying session followed by 32 lap race, which should be approximately an hour long if we assume that the lap times are roughly 2 minutes long. There's an interesting line into the pits Valente takes. And, that will be him back into the box. New splash of tyres, a bit of fuel. And one of the benefits of GT3 racing, of course, is that you don't really have the knife edge qualifying that you have in Formula 1. They can kind of take liberties on how many laps they do on a particular set of tyres. It's they don't have to cool down the battery, cool down the tyres and things. They can improve with 2 back-to-back push laps.
So here we go. Go actually. Gar, I guess. Sorry for leaving you alone for so long, but I've made it actually back, and getting word out. If you actually you are main commentator for today, so I'm gonna try to keep an eye out on the live chat as well, and let's see how this goes. We got how many minutes to go? 11 minutes something. I can see that. Right?
11 minutes 51 roughly, and hello, Blade to the chat. Welcome back. And if you do have any questions for us in the live chat, please do put them in there. We're more than welcome. We're more than keen to answer any questions or inputs you may have, as we have got quite a longer race compared to the NASCAR this evening.
I'm not sure if that's actually that much longer. I think NASCAR was about an hour, and we have 200. Yeah, we have 200 kilometers of racing today, which should translate into quick math, which is certainly nothing I'm good at. I'm not entirely sure. I think we have 35 laps or something like that. But don't quote me on that, please, because I've absolutely no idea how long the circuit actually is. Okay, let's go back to qualifying, because that's something I can actually commentate on for sure.
And there's a question for you in the chat, actually, Constantin.
Go ahead.
Someone said they want to see you in a race. Are you racing anytime soon? Which I believe the answer to that is yes. You were actually supposed to be racing today, weren't you?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I was supposed to be racing today, but unfortunately someone was missing from the commentary box, so I'm joining you, Tom, which is, of course, a pleasure as well. But, being a race car driver, you always want to be on track, right? Next time out for me, it's going to be next week, though, on Saturday in NASCAR.
Yes, of course, and there's someone getting a little bit wrong there. That was one of the Lamborghinis. That was Taylor Wallace, who went a little bit wide through that particular corner. He's in another stock livery, I believe, judging by that number plate. And wow, there's really some flair. And there he is. He's in the number 30. That is actually a GT Asia plate. I apologise for that. He's in C-Force Racing, in number 30. And the game classes it as GT3 2 GTE. It's definitely a GT3 car. These aren't quite the big brothers of GT3 in GTE. I suppose the closest we've got to a GTE here is the GT300 class. So still doesn't come exactly close, if I'm correct.
In theory, they should be balanced, GT300 and GT3 cars, but still the Subaru is a little bit overpowered, I'm afraid. We've had discussions in the background going on to reduce the power prior to this round, but we decided to keep it, so the GT300 cars, which is, of course, what a surprise, run by admins as well. You can see Carlos Frau and Pablo Lopez, but I don't want to say anything bad about them, because we just decided to keep it for stability, as Taylor Wallace has another off. So that's going to be his lap ruined for sure, and he's trying to rejoin as safely as he can. So it's good supporting for him. Sorry, go ahead.
If we can find someone about to start a flying lap, it would be too bad if we could take you on a full lap guide.
If I can make that.
There he is, Taylor Wallace. As you can see, heading down into turn 1. He's going to brake at about the 50-metre board, get the car in for a little bit of a late apex, it appears. It's a double apex right-hander, actually, so it is going to be a late apex. Use all of the curb on the X. He's going to roar down 6th gear, set himself up nicely for the next left-hander. He's going to brake just about the 70-metre board, dip the car in a little bit early. He's not going to quite pick up the apex, but he's going to set himself up nicely for turn 3, I think that would be.
Yes, correct.
Heads down a short blast, the sun glaring in his eyes, to the next hairpin. Brakes nice and early, gets the car just over, not quite turned into the apex. He's going a little bit wide there. It hasn't been a particularly amazing lap for Taylor Wallace as he goes flat through the next right-hander. Not a hint of a lift there. All the way up to 6th gear as he roars down to about a 3rd gear corner, I imagine. There is not quite as fast as it looks. A nice windy section of track, and he's lost it. I think he has. Not ideal.
No, not ideal, definitely. But it was a little bit. He had a rough start in the GT Asia Championship. I think he came from Assetto Corsa Competizione, if I'm not completely wrong. Had his first start about 2 races ago. And let's see if we can see Alfie Bevan going around for a track. I'm going to try my luck as well this time by. And we are on board with him. I'm trying to add up to your commentary as well. First, as you said, first corner is quite tricky. really delayed apex. He missed it by quite a lot this time and you have to put emphasis quite a lot on the corner exit. So not a good start for his lap, but let's see if Alfie Beaven can keep or make up for it into turn 2, which is super tight. It's so tricky to get that right in the GT3 cars, especially the exit curbs. GT3 cars tend to bounce over that a lot. Same here, and he gets carried out wide as the sun glare is actually quite impressive. Once again, tight corner coming up. Once again, don't run too wide. It's gonna hurt you so much, which he just does. That's very unfortunate, but he's trying to recover from that. That's a good apex right there. Perfect. Going a little bit wide, then tap on the brakes. It looks super tight, this corner, but you can carry so much speed through it, and this one is so slippy. As we saw Taylor Wallace going off. Alfie Beaven really unsettling the rear of the car as well. Then again, another slow corner. Motegi is containing of quite a lot of slow corners before you have a short sprint down the Eastern Circuit variation back straight into another hairpin, which is, that's quite too late on the brakes for Alfie Beaven. Now down the alternative pit road, get blinded by the sun as you go along with it, and then just go down the hill, right along quite a long straight, and then it's basically just 3 more turns until the end. Brake hard and late into this dipping right-hander, and don't try to lose your rear under the oval. 2 more turns to go, or basically 2 more corner complexes to go into the right-hander as you are once again blinded by the light, and that's a lap around Twin Ring Motegi. Sorry, Japanese circuits names are not my entire favorite.
So we've got a question in chat. How does it come that these race cars look even nice in comparison to other league races? And that is actually a different simulator to what we ran earlier this evening. This is Assetto Corsa. Whilst it's technically an older game than Automobilista, it's on a newer engine. It's built in-house by Kunos, who create this wonderful little simulator. Automobilista is very much more focused on the driving experience than the graphics. It's a bit more of a sim than this, but it's on the older G-Motor 2 engine, which is famously the engine that put you amazing games like R Factor 1. So Automobilista didn't really have much time to focus on the graphical side of things, but obviously Assetto Corsa has got some nice little graphics, especially with the custom shaders patch that I imagine we're running here.
Yeah, that's completely right. That's also why the sun is so blinding. I hope all the drivers have tuned down that for them, but first time we run that in stream, so I have to apologize, because we still experiment a little bit with custom shader patches, getting the graphic settings right. Of course, it's just our 5th or 4th stream on Assetto Corsa, so mistakes are made, but we're surely going to fix that for the next ones up.
And the crucial thing is that it does take a little bit of time for a league to get used to a game. Every game's got its own little niche things involved that differ from each other with broadcasts. Like, I think one of the biggest things is that F1 2020 has got various little bugs on the broadcast. R Factor 2's got cameras where you can tune pretty much everything as if it was a real camera. And obviously, Assetto Corsa's got graphic settings galore. I think it's about 3 pages of Content Manager graphic settings to tweak and get right. So, the guys at RACE9 doing a very good job to get the stream to the standard it's at, nonetheless.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. That's very nice words from you. Glad to hear that.
As this is Johannes Berto in the Porsche. The orange Porsche, actually, it's actually quite ironic that they've chosen to pretty much recolour the stock Porsche livery. It's effective nonetheless. It looks pretty nice. Again, across the line for a 1:55. Not quite where he wants to be. That's put him into P15. It's not his fastest lap anyway, 3.4 seconds off the pace. So his fastest lap would be a 1:52. I believe pretty much flat, 1:52.1 perhaps. So Alessandro Valente is going to cross the line. He's still going to keep P2, 2.8 tenths off of the race leader. He improved, but not by enough. We've got 2 minutes left in the qualifying session. It's gone rather quickly, as it has to be said. And Sven Gillerhood still holds pole position by a huge margin in GT3 from Carlos Frau, who seemed to have the GT Championship in hand until... no, sorry, that's completely wrong. Carlos Frau's a GT300 driver. I knew he was leading some championship, but he's leading the GT300 championship. And that championship lead is being cut down thanks to Ross Clark, who once again is putting in what seems to be a dominant qualifying performance. Alessandro Valente, nonetheless, is going to try. He's got a little bit of traffic from the Lamborghini ahead. That's perhaps going to help him a little bit. These GT3 cars haven't got a massive amount of aero. They've got just enough so that it's effective, and it means that slipstream down the straight is going to be quite impressive.
He's going to have to... Sorry, go ahead.
Well, he's going to have to get past the Lamborghini. That's going to ruin his lap a little bit. The Lamborghini isn't giving way too easily, and I think that's going to just be enough so that Valente can't get the 2/10 he needs to challenge Ross Clark. I think he's going to have to back off and go again heading through this final corner.
Yeah, the GT300 cars, which of course Valente is driving, the sole car in this class is the Subaru BRZ R&D Sport. It's the official name of it. They have quite a decent amount of acceleration due to their massive BOP. Also, they are quite much lighter than GT3 cars, as Wallace just disappears, decides to fade out of existence, and that gives Valente another good run in the final minute of qualifying. Let's see if he is able to challenge Clark ahead. Where's Clark at? Let's find him on track meanwhile.
As is he able to do it, Valente? I think he improved there slightly. But no, he didn't. Not enough to challenge Ross Clark ahead. This is, you're looking at Ross Clark, number 55. And someone who looks like, if he was here for the first 2 rounds of the season, would be very much a championship contender, but he's very much playing catch-up, having missed those first 2 rounds. Of course, when you've got someone like Carlos Frau, who really built up an early championship lead, Ross Clark coming into the picture means that it's a little bit difficult for him to build back that gap that stands at 47 points right now. Well, he's eating at that gap slowly but surely, and well, if he can keep this up, it looks like he could be there and thereabouts towards the end of the season. Of course, someone else is Pablo Lopez, who also drove in NASCAR earlier in the number 53 car. He's looking pretty good to continue that kind of run for eating away at the gap from Carlos Frau. Maybe not particularly today, as he is further down the order than his compatriot, the 2 Spaniards at the top of the championship. This is Ross Clark, though, and we shouldn't take away from him. He's on a run to try and solidify his pole position. Valente and Gilhood, his 2 challengers, have both crossed the line. Checker flag, no improvements from either of them. Gilhood looks like he's going to take the GT3 pole quite comfortably, and I think Ross Clark can smile a little bit as he looks to be taking the GT300 pole position quite comfortably. This is Carlos Frau. He's unable to make any inroads on anyone ahead as he crosses the line, I believe, for the checker flag.
The alternative pit lane, sorry.
I apologise. But
he's still on the flyer.
So it's much like Silverstone, this truck, then, in the fact it's got 2 pit lanes.
Yeah, absolutely right. None of them have been an old one, though. None of them are actually the main pit road, too, because that's on the oval, which we see in the background anytime soon as Carlos Frau goes around the last corner. Let's see if he's running a little bit wide. That's going to hurt him, but let's see if he can move up some positions at least. Challenge Sven Galehood for P3, but he's not in. Okay, I've got a massive game lag, but I think he hasn't improved. No, he hasn't. So I think that's him done, and I think we just have some more cars on track, and not too much. Moses Reyes should be still on the flying lap. Let's see if we can find him very quickly to finish off qualifying.
No, I think that's very much qualifying over with Ross Clark taking pole position in GT300. Moises Reyes are going to try and have a go at the GT3 pole. It's going to be a little bit difficult for him. You have to feel he's not able to get it. It's quite poor in the end compared to the dominance of Sven Gilhood. Sven Gilhood takes GT3 pole position then confirmed. And, well, now we're going to wait for the session to be officially over. We're going to have about a 5-minute warm-up session. And we'll be straight into 32 laps and 150 kilometres of racing here at Twin Ring Motegi.
Yeah, your impressions after qualifying?
Well, I think definitely Ross Clark looks like he's going to take the win. I think, I don't think Valente is going to have quite enough for him, though. We saw Valente had a lot of pace last week, 2 weeks ago, actually, it would have been, the last GT Asia race. And I think it's going to be a little bit of a battle between those two, but I think Ross is just going to have a little bit too much for Valente over the long run, and I think Gilhood's going to continue his complete and utter dominance of the GT3 championship. Obviously, whilst he's got a 25-point lead. That's because he withdrew from the first race, but has won every race since, and I can't see him doing anything other than that. The Dutch driver, of course, it'll be interesting to see who else can make up some positions in that particular championship. Of course, RACE will be in second position as it stands. We start second, and here we go then, as they're all going to wait a couple minutes whilst the game. Well, it's a 5-minute countdown, so we've got a little bit of time to stop and chat as all the drivers wait on the grid. And they have no doubt they'll be sorting out their final setup adjustments, their final pit stop strategy, and things like that. I believe it'll be quite similar to the other race, in which that it will be a one-stop race. GT3 cars should be able to go an entire hour on a fuel stint, so I'm not sure how that equals out in this particular game. But I think that's coming for tyres for sure.
After driving both classes while you've been commentating on my horrible experience last time out, you and Ian O'Leary, of course, I can confirm it is quite possible to do soft on tire compounds in both classes. GT300 cars are a little bit easier on the tires as well. Then again, I was driving the BMW. The BMW is a tire eater. It's absolutely insane. To keep this car in check is quite difficult, and that just shows how amazing Sven Gehlhardt's performance actually is, to outclassify the whole GT3 field by over half a second, to put it in 3 and win 3 out of 4 races so far, after claiming pole position in the first one and just to withdrew it after qualifying. Which was quite something. He just placed it on pole and said, no, not going to race. Okay. Gifted the win to Adrian Carmona, I think, who never returned to the series after his win, which is also quite interesting tactics. But of course, first races on Assetto Corsa, the field has stabilized. Is that a word?
Yes, stabilized is a word.
Stabilized. Oh yeah, thank you. See, wrong pronunciation. Already running out of English earlier today. Stabilized quite a lot, and we see a lot of cars entered as well. 19 cars on the grid, which is for a championship that's only 4 races old in a completely new community. I think that's decent, to say the least. So before we start, let's have a quick look at the grid. 4 house elements, new entry in the BRZ Sport GT300 class. Ross Clark from pole position ahead of Alessandro Valente, starting from second place. And then the first GT3 car in position 3 with Sven Gehlhardt for FRA Sim Racing. Carlos Frau, currently in the GT300 class, starts from 4th, ahead of his teammate in the GT3 class, Moises Reyes. And then followed by another CMP Corsa car in Pablo Lopez, the Spaniard, starting from 6th. Then we have OS front row with Gabriel Prado making his debut today in the GT Asia Championship. Then he's starting ahead of Olivier Ferry, sorry if I messed that name up, and he's also starting ahead of his teammate Kilian Sattler in 9th. Rounding out the top 10 is Carlos Alvarez in another GT3 car, ahead of Nur Adli, the only Malaysian in this field, on P11, that is. Nick de Villiers starting from 12th, also a new team on the grid. Then he's followed by Andre Leite for OS front row, the second machinery of the Brazilian team, ahead of Alfie Bevan, who has been struggling in qualifying a little bit compared to the previous rounds. Then another house elements Subaru, Craig Southern starting in 15, also making his debut for today. OS front row with another car, Jonatas Bertol starting in 16th. Then in row 9, that is, C-Force Lamborghini is returning to the grid with Tyler Wallace, ahead of another debutant for today, Leo Ehrlich. And last but not least, on P19, starting Darnell Bacon, the American. So let's hope for a good and exciting round.
It's very good, and I think this is kind of filling that void where we've seen Assetto Corsa kind of get overtaken by its younger brother, in Assetto Corsa competitors Dillon. Of course, that's where all of the hype is right now, and I actually prefer the original. I think the new Assetto Corsa is quite a bit of it's poorer compared to this in terms of how it drives. Unpopular opinion, I am aware, but it's nice to see. It's nice to see this 2014 game getting what it deserves. And of course, 2014 is a little bit of it's a little bit misleading as this game has been updated consistently since. In fact, it got an update 2 days ago, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, that's correct.
And of course, the official Ferrari Esports Championship runs on this game, with official content technically still being released every now and then. And of course, it's pretty much the game of choice for all of the F1 teams when it comes to testing out the RSS Formula Hybrid car in their various hot lap videos and things. In fact, the Formula 1 channel decided to use Assetto Corsa and the RSS mod as their lap guide around the brand new Miami circuit. And as we've got about 90 seconds to go until we get underway for 150 kilometers of racing.
Yeah, right. Just a quick word about that. The only reason why we decided to go to AC instead of ACC, Assetto Corsa instead of Assetto Corsa Competizione, was because we intended to run the GT500 class, of course, the bigger brothers of the GT300 class, before abandoning it right before the season started because of a low number of entries. But I think with 19 entries on average in the last 2 rounds, and if we're going to keep that, I think we're going to see the GT500 at some point. Don't get too excited, but yeah, it's definitely in the works. Anyways, 45 seconds left until the start, and it's gonna be a very interesting one. Turn 1's gonna be tricky though, with that massive fuel load in cold tires, and 18 cars eager to take P1 into turn 1, right?
And here we go, 25 seconds. We're going to start frustratingly just after 1:30 in the UK.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's not your fault. It's just one of those things in league racing. You always get ever so slight things. And here we go. The lights are coming onto the screen, and Ross Clark's going to have to get this start perfect, because we know that Valente is hungry for a race win. And it's very quick 5 red lights. And it is lights out, and away we go. It's been a bit of a poor start for Ross Clark in the early getaway. Valente is going to be right up there, heading into the challenge of turn 1. It's that quick double apex, and Valente is going down the inside. Is he going to be able to get here? I think he is. That's absolutely spectacular start for Alessandro Valente. You cannot get much better than that. Ross Clark's being under pressure now from Sven Gillerhood. I don't think he's going to quite have enough for him, though, and then Sven Gillerhood is going to be overtaken again, or someone's going to try and overtake him. Not quite able to do that. I think that was Carlos Frau, as he is able to get ahead of him. Now Carlos Frau in that GT300 class. We've got a GT300 1, 2, 3 as they all bound down to the next hairpin. One of the Audis is trying to make a move on someone further back, and I think he's going to get it in that nice bright blue Audi, and he's got the move quite perfectly on Pablo Lopez. Has RACE, as they all kind of line up, as Sven Gillerhood still going side by side. He's trying to make that move on Carlos Frau. He wants the overall podium, even if he's pretty much got the pace for the GT3 win quite comfortably. Of course, these are racing drivers. They never want to lose any inch of time if they can.
I might want to correct you on that. Next GT3 car is right behind him, the big blue-white Audi we see in the background. And he's definitely not going to let Sven Gillerhood ahead run away easily. Of course, he is also in a CMP Corsa sandwich. Don't get irritated by the classes and the different liveries. Carlos Frau, Moises Reyes, Pablo Lopez, all the Spanish guys, they are teammates. And perhaps Carlos Frau, if he's not able to get a leg ahead and have a good run into, as Pablo Lopez just, as I said that, overtakes his teammate and denies him from any support that Carlos Frau could have given to Reyes for the class win. I was about to say that, but yeah, that's all gone and dusted at this point.
So, of course, Sven Gillerhood trying to get into his rhythm now to try and solidify himself on top of those points standings in GT3. This is Ross Clark trying to go for the move for the GT300 lead. He's on Alessandro Valente, and I don't think he's quite going to have the legs as we head down to this left-hander. It's a lot faster than it looks.
Yeah, corner entry is super tricky, as I said, and it's so costly to run wide. These curbs are super deadly in all categories, of course, all sorts of cars. The only car that can take it, I think, is the Nissan, which is not here. But Ross Clark, ever so carefully on the corner exit, you can see he's absolutely on the edge of that curb, but also that puts pressure on to Alessandro Valente just ahead as he thinks about a move, but nope, that was just shown in his rearview mirrors to say to Valente, hi, I'm there. make a mistake and I'll get you.
Well, he's got 30 laps to make that move, Ross Clark, and I think he'll bide his time and just wait for it to present itself. Of course, as you mentioned, all kinds of cars racing on this circuit. We've had NASCARs here, and of course the lap record on this particular circuit was a 134.8 from Kamui Kobayashi last year in his Super Formula in the Toyota.
Also, sorry, to just throw that in, the only IndyCar race ever won by a female was on that circuit with Danica Patrick in 2005? Or was it 2007? I'm not entirely sure anymore, but that was, of course, on the oval. But yeah, IndyCar here as well. Sorry, go ahead.
No, absolutely interesting facts to add to the entertainment, as Pablo Lopez is still trying to get past that roadblock of the BMW ahead of him.
Actually, it's vice versa. Kilian Sattler has just overtaken Lopez, which is... never mind. Sattler just makes a mistake out of the last corner, and here comes Lopez down the straight, easy pass. And, Carlos Frau, I think, with the fastest lap.
It was Alessandro Valente. Oh, yes, no, Carlos Frau did get the 51.7. 3 tenths faster than Alessandro Valente, who held that previously. He was 4 tenths faster than his rival in Ross Clark. And immediately my predictions are turning out to be false so far, with Alessandro Valente right ahead of Ross Clark. As the great Murray Walker said, it technically wasn't a prediction that was wrong, it was a prophecy that turned out to be immediately untrue.
That's a good quote. I should write that down somewhere, but I'm actually rather focused on racing as Carlos Frau makes a slight mistake, breaking Tatulated, already losing so much ground to the guys in front. He was with them for a brief moment, but now he has undone all his work and has to catch back up again, I am afraid. Let's go down into the midfield a bit. And
I think if Frau can just bide his time, as there's the BMW of Sattler getting past Lopez once again. These two are having a bit of a ding-dong battle. Ooh. And perhaps not something that they'd like to be involved in. They are technically in 2 different classes of racing. And, this is the same kind of odd class warfare you get between DPI and LMP2 in American endurance. And, well, it's interesting. Do you fight for the overall position, or do you just try and work together to get up the field and be beneficial to both of you? Many drivers have many different ways of approaching that. Of course, we saw such a dynamic in the hypercar and LMP2 era that started this year. This is Nick de Villiers getting past the Audi. I think he's just going to get that move quite simply. He brakes a lot later and gets it quite nicely. There's going to be a little bit of resistance from Alfie Bevan, but not quite enough.
Oh, that's right on the brakes from de Villiers, and that's going to right up, open up the doors for Bevan, who's running, of course, in that iconic Top Gear livery. But on the straight, the tank that is the AMG just goes ahead. On the brakes, though, Bevan not giving up at all, and he's throwing it to the inside. Can he make it stick? No. De Villiers hangs on. Oh, he nearly lost the car. So that was super close.
Seems to be a little bit of oversteer from Alfie Bevan, as he's now under pressure from Alvarez. Don't think Alvarez is quite able to make that move just yet. His headlights are ablaze in that multicoloured Audi R8, and Alfie Bevan getting it all wrong on the exit once again. You can see the grass not being particularly favourable to any of these drivers this weekend, is braking as late as possible, do both of them. Alfie Bevan seemed to open the door a little bit to Nick de Villa, but I think Nick wasn't really stirred by such a move. As you can see, the red proximity arrow ablaze very much so as Wallace tries to make a move. As Wallace all the way into the grab, and well, he's got that all wrong, that's for sure, in P13, and that's the 2015 Lamborghini Huracan, and well, it's been a bit of a hurricane of gravel as he went through there.
I feel like you have to apologize for that one. Sorry, that was so terrible. I feel bad for laughing at that, but okay. I'm
not known for my amazing puns, it has to be said.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. $1 into the jar, right? The bad phrases jar. Let's see what's going on ahead, because the fight for the lead is still on. Same for Lopez, as you can see in the BMW. Here's Carlos Frau trying to hold off Sven Galehood, but yeah. Alessandro Valente, surprisingly, able to break away slightly from Ross Clark. Would have thought of that.
They seem to be pretty much evenly matched on pace. 1/10 faster was Valente on the previous lap. He gets the fastest lap of the race. Sven Gillerhood won't be too interested in fighting Carlos Frau for the longest time, as they are, of course, in two different classes. Even if he gets past Carlos Frau, then he's basically, he gets the same amount of championship points. So it's a difficult dynamic he has to figure out here, does Sven Gillerhood. If I were him, I wouldn't rush the move too quickly, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. If he is willing to just work with Carlos Frau a little bit to try and catch the two ahead, who are having a little bit of a battle, but it's a 1 second gap. Now, Alessandro Valente is controlling this race quite nicely. As we said, if it wasn't for his poor qualifying last time out, he probably would have been closer to Clark throughout the race. As if I do bring your attention to Johannes Berto and Southern are both out of this race in the number 91 Porsche and the number 45.
Right, Sven Gillerhood, you just said that he maybe wants to take his time to overtake Carlos Frau, but then again, he would have had another car in between him and Moises Reyes, who's of course now 5 seconds down the road from Gillerhood, but they are in the same class. Don't forget that. And also Kilian Sattler is right behind Reyes as well. So all it takes is one big mistake, and not even a big mistake, a small mistake from Gillerhood, and that's all hard work undone. So yeah, I think he would be better off, in my personal opinion, of course, not enforce it to go past Frau, but then again, the more cars you have in between you yourself and your opponents, the better.
Well, interestingly, Frau and Gillerhood were both much, much faster than Reyes on that previous lap, so it might be beneficial for both of them to work together. As we said, them battling is only going to lose touch with the pack ahead, and I can see Valente and Clark battling further on down the road. So if they can just stay line of stern for the time being, they can kind of play this game of chess where they can get up to that front leading two and see if they can make some inroads on the overall race victory.
Yeah, then again, Ross Clark not able to show the dominance he had in his first two appearances at this point, but so I'm not entirely sure if he's just relaxing at this point and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna do my best in the second stint," or if Valente is just genuinely that fast that Clark has basically no answer. It is really surprising to me at this point, but we'll see how the race will unfold. Of course, we only have 6 laps in. Is that the 6? I can't see it. I'm sorry.
It is 6 laps, yes. And as we said, Clark kind of bide his time here and take his time to make the move. It will present itself eventually if he's got the pace. And they seem to be pretty evenly matched on pace right now, actually. Valente was 3 tenths on that previous lap. On board, driver's eye with Ross Clark. As you can see, heads down into, well, you can't really see because of the massive bar, the anti-roll bar. And we're on top of the car, the roof cam, for a second. And we're back to the TV car. And there we are. The sun-scorched window, as you would imagine. He's probably wearing a polarized visor, at least metaphorically.
It's gonna get even worse, I think, at the next round, which is, of course, also at the Twin Ring Motegi, at the same circuit we are on right now. Also, it's nevertheless, it said Tochigi GP or something like that beforehand. But it's gonna be a dawn to night race, so it's gonna be very interesting how that's gonna play out. First time night racing on Assetto Corsa at RACE9 coming up in, I think, 2 weeks. You got the wiki open. You know the dates for sure.
Oh yes, I can give you those dates actually. If you let me quickly find them, it will be on the 15th of May, also at Twin Ring Motegi.
As I said, and the first time night racing coming up. So yeah, it's going to be very much the same race, of course, at the same circuit. That's what I mean, but a very different race. So don't be too sure that these guys perform all the same. Of course, top guys usually have to say more or less the same pace in night racing as well, but it's easier to make mistakes in the night. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Here we go.
As Valente sets a new, well, he didn't, sorry, that was just the game telling us that we were on board with him. But as we said, he seems to be eking out a little bit of a gap to Ross Clark now. It's 1.475 seconds as they head down past the DRS zone. Well, there is no DRS in this particular series, as you'd expect. There's pretty much no aero anyway on a GT car. It's very much a traditional racing machine. This is the Porsche, the number 26. And, he's down in P17, pretty much dead last, 58 seconds behind the leader. And, that'll be bitterly disappointing for him. I think he's just having a bit of a Saturday drive. And, a good way to spend the evening. Of course, this race started at 1700 in-game time, which means it should end around 6 o'clock in the game. Which could be interesting, because we could see that sun start to creep down once again. So we'll have to see. Of course, we're using Content Manager, which has very nice adaptations to the various seasons that we've got. And, you can see Alfie Bevan now holding up Alvarez and Wallace. Perhaps getting a little bit eager to pass him is Wallace, as he immediately has to break the slipstream from Wallace behind, does Alvarez. And goes very defensive. And you can just see that in the background of your picture there. And I think he's just got the position saved, has Alvarez. Wallace not quite able to make many inroads on him as of yet.
Oh, there was a spin.
There was a spin from someone. I think that's Light, as he is into the gravel and back out onto the circuit. It's not going to lose him too much time, but it will be just enough to unsettle him and bring him out of that rhythm that he's been building up for the last 8 laps or so. And, it can really harm your race. One spin quickly turns into another spin. And, next thing you know, you completely lost your head. And this is Killian Sattler in the number 28 BMW. See a lovely little zebra-style livery, I suppose, in the number 28, running in P6, which is actually a podium in class for Hood, Reyes and Sattler. Your 4, 5 and 6 drivers are all GT3 drivers. He's got a GT300 car on his rear bumper, though, and, he's going to have to try and fend him off if he wants to. But it'll be an interesting dynamic once again whether he uses the pace of the GT300 car to try and stay with him, or if he's going to actually defend from him throughout the next few laps. And I think he's going to have to defend from him, because that GT300 car does not really want to stick around. He can see his compatriots further up the road, and he wants to get past as soon as possible. So we go on to lap 9. Of course, Reyes just ahead of Sattler, and not quite able to pull a huge gap, though he is running a little bit faster than his GT300, not teammates, they aren't teammates, but his GT300 counterpart. GT3 counterpart, sorry.
I wasn't paying attention for a second, but I got intel from several discussions going on that Craig Southern, who's already retired, and Jonata Sperto apparently have this collided. So that's the reason why Craig Southern, down into P19, has already retired from the race. Also, Andre Leiter, after that spin we saw, has also retired, and someone else, which I can't see because Steam is giving me a very nice overlay that makes it impossible to see who else has retired. I think you have live races open. You surely know that. But
yes, I do, actually. I can tell you all 3 retirements are Light, Berto, and Southern. Then the so-called 20.
As well. Okay, that's a shame. Oh, that's a mistake. I think there was one of the BMW from Spartan Racing Team. Yeah, Olivier Ferry. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I have absolutely no idea how to pronounce French names. I was about to say that he's going to get under pressure from Gabriel Prado, our newest sign-up aside Leo Ehrlich. Going to get under pressure from him very soon, but
Sorry to cut you off there. Another retirement from Darnelly Bacon.
Also from a very good position as well, for his perspective, I think. He was... wasn't he like in 14th or something like that?
He was, yes. So bitter disappointment for him.
Ross Clark with the fastest lap. Let's see how that pans out in the difference in the fight for the lead. Of course, it's still on between these guys and the 2 guys ahead. We have quite a lot of separation at this point. We've seen that in the other GT Asia races before. Unfortunately, I was always one of these guys who got separated to the back of the queues. But anyways, it's very interesting to see how the race develops until this point. We are, of course, in lap 10 at this point, so 9.5 laps done for the leaders. And it has settled down quite a bit, which is unusual at this point, but I'm absolutely confident with Ross Clark just pulling in the fastest lap of the race so far, that he's going to try to move back into P1 very shortly.
I get the feeling that Ross Clark kind of used the early part of this stint to just bide his time, as we were mentioning, and just kind of save the tyres, and now he's ready to push Valente to the limit on lap 10 of this race, as he's pushed himself to the limit a little bit too much, as it's now 5/10 that gap between them. He's very much in the slipstream range and heading down to one of the tighter corners on the track. I don't think he's quite going to have enough for Valente as it stands, but he'll definitely be looking to try and make the move at some point in this race. And I'm wondering, does he go for the undercut and try and make the most of that saving he's done so far? Or perhaps go for the overcut, I suppose, to make the most of the saving. And or does he go for the undercut and just try and get ahead of Valente? Perhaps not even on track, because Valente's not going to make it easy to pass.
Yeah, I have to say, Valente really developed him, showed himself to be a really good driver. He was struggling in the first two races he had. But now you see that he's in the lead for 10 laps now, nearly unchallenged. But then again, as you said, I'm not entirely sure that Ross Clark perhaps can attempt the undercut. They seem very evenly matched at this point, and perhaps that one fast lap he just pulled in 2 laps ago, or at the previous lap, I should say. Was it the previous lap? Sorry, I'm getting lost already.
Yes, it was lap. It's the previous lap. His best lap's a 1.
Okay. All right, thank you. Was perhaps just a little bit an outbreak to the top, but I don't feel like Ross Clark really has that much in him at this point. Oops, he's going a little bit wide. That's not going to help him either to make an attack onto Valente just ahead.
Well, he's definitely going to make the move at some point. I think he's pace in him. I think he is, as we said, just trying to save, trying to make the overcut, perhaps. Hoping that Valente jumps into the pits earlier than him, so Valente gets all of that traffic. As we can see, the traffic is very much in the pit window. Actually, they've come out into traffic, and perhaps Ross is banking on being able to make the overcut work because of that tyre life he's saved, and then he'll just hope that he can hold off Valente for the rest of the race, the newer tyres.
It's very, very interesting to see how that's going to end at the end, I suppose. Sorry. A lot of strategies on. Also, the battle for P3 overall is still raging as well. No, it's not really raging, but it's still on, at least. And Carlos Frau in the GT300 car trying to defend from the leading GT3 car. We just had an overtake for P... What was it? Here we go. Kilian Sattler and Pablo Lopez once again. These guys couldn't be separated. As in the background, we also see Prado versus Sattler's teammate, Ferry, and as Lopez just breezes down into turn 1 on the inside, and Sattler says, okay, you know what? Take it. I'm going to retake it later anyways. Well,
you've got what's probably the most heavy GT3 car in the BMW versus one of the light, nimble GT300 cars. And I think on the note of Sven Gilhood and Carlos Frau, I think they are content in doing what I said earlier and just kind of running in tandem together and just not really making any moves on each other, because they know they've got a lot of hungry GT300 and GT3 cars behind them. So if they work together, they're going to gain more time than they'd lose from battle.
Absolutely right. Short shout out to the 13 viewers we got on currently. I think that's quite a good number for us at this point. But of course, we just never stop and push for a better result later on. As Alfie Beeman and Taylor Wallace go side by side, they just overtook each other, and I was going in the wrong direction. I'm sorry for that, but we're going to pick up with the fight in a minute. Taylor Wallace actually being a little bit more competitive than he was in the first few races. In his first, Beeman, I was so close to losing it. How did he hang on to that? Anyways, I was about to say, Wallace a lot more competitive in this one, and that's good to see. See, driver development really going on. Upwards for the most. Unfortunately, I think a bit downwards today for Bevan. He was quite decent in the previous races, but this time he's looking like he's having a hard time. Wallace just ran out of talent at that corner, I'm afraid.
That was going to be a spectacular move from Wallace, and he just had a little bit of understeer. into the gravel, and that kind of just unsettled the car enough to not give him the runner's massive slide from Alfie Bevan. That wasn't intended whatsoever. He lost a little bit of exit speed, and this is going to invite Wallace to perhaps have a run out of the next couple of corners. You can see the sky seems to be just getting a little bit greyer in this race, but I don't think it's going to have any effect. I don't think we've even got the plug-in turned on. So it's just an interesting observation. Perhaps that's going to help the drivers with that sun glare that they've been experiencing through the race. And straight on goes the Lamborghini.
Was he diving for the pit lane? Perhaps.
He was, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler Wallace, after 13 laps, that's an odd one. Didn't expect that to happen, but perhaps he picked up some damage because Bevan was just overtaken him, and he decided it was for the better to go into the pits to repair. Meanwhile, Leo Ehrlich, also one of the debutants for today, side Gabriel Prado, who is running in P9. He was also in the pits, from what I can see. The rear of the car says stop steering, so we're going to do that and look on to Nur Adli, the Malaysian, who's going to have his home race in 2 races as we go to the Sepang circuit. And he is not having a good time either today. He was a little bit more competent in Okayama. Sorry, not competent, I should say. Competitive in Okayama, previous round. Unfortunately, he had a very unfortunate meeting with me of the third kind in the first corner. I'm sorry, but it happens, right? And it's always a pleasure to see these guys returning, even if they are not running for the lead, but they are running, and that's a good thing.
Yes, for sure. P12, he got timeout, did Adley. And the Malaysian, as he said, his 3 rounds time, until his home race.
Ooh, got me something in between. What's after Motegi?
So we've got Motegi, Thailand, and then Spang.
Ah, yeah, sure. Buriram. Sorry, I forgot about that as well. But that's going to be a really good one as well. Christian Albers, meanwhile, overtook Nick de Villiers. That's very interesting. I didn't expect that to happen as I was going through. Sorry.
Yes, we've got this weird dynamic in this race now where Valente is kind of just pulled out a little bit of a gap to Ross Clark, who's 2.7 seconds down the road. I make it at least. And, this is perhaps just Ross not quite having the stamina to say that Valente's got. Valente's been pretty much well-oiled machine. He's been in the 150-1.8 pretty much all race. We've seen a few mistakes slip in from Ross Clark, although perhaps, as we mentioned, Ross Clark might just be tyre saving a little bit. He knows that it's about now that the pit window is going to start to open as we head into about half distance in this race, and perhaps it's now that he's going to have to just start to really save those tyres, try and make the overcut work, because I think the overcut's probably going to be the only thing that's going to save him in this race.
Yeah, I think so too. As I said before, Ross Clark, let's put it vice versa. Valente is absolutely on top of the game at the moment. That's really impressive. What I said before, how he developed in the last few races is absolutely insane. And Kyle Magnusbury, I'm sure you're watching in the stream as well. You can be absolutely proud of him. And if I was you, I would give him certainly a race after that race, if he's going to manage to keep on that position, of course. Still a long way to go. Shouldn't speak too early.
And of course, this doesn't bode very well for Ross Clark's championship challenge. As we said, he looks like he was going to be able to challenge for the championship later in the season if he kept his dominance up that he showed at the last race. But he's only one position ahead of Carlos Frau, who is your current championship leader, which means that Frau's going to extend his championship lead, really. And that's not what he wants at all, does Ross Clark, if he's going to be able to challenge. Realistically, he needs to pick up at least a hat-trick of wins.
Yeah, it's a very tough battle, but of course, if you have an early lead, it's always going to help you for sure. But then again, it's also quite easy to get lazy, especially in sim racing, where you have to practice quite a lot. And in a series like this, which is actually decently competitive, you have to put some time in to get at least some laps under your belt. And to be good at the next race, or at least decent. And Carlos Frau is just doing that. He's managing his lead quite comfortably. He's also profiting from Valente now interfering. Oh, here goes Clark into the pits.
So that overcut isn't going to open up Clark. He's going to go for the undercut instead. And perhaps that tyre life just wasn't quite working for him.
And again, that makes me wonder what Valente has in up his sleeves until the very next point, or after the pit stop. How long he's going to go, if he's extend another lap, or just how much life he has in the tyres left. That was the thing I was about to say.
If you can get the tyres and really save them, and get them to sort of lap 20 at the latest, they are all on soft tyres, these drivers. No one's gone for the mediums. If you can go to sort of lap 20 on the softs by some miracle, then you can really have a lot of pace in the second stint. But I think Clark now has come out into a little bit of traffic, and that's going to be really difficult for him to pull off this undercut on Valente, even if he has got the newer tyres.
Tell you what, it's absolutely not worth it. These tyres, once they go off the edge, which we saw with Pablo Lopez in Suzuka, he was leading so dominantly in the last 2 laps. His tyres just went, and he was thrown into a ditch. Is absolutely did not recover from that. I think he finished in second though in class, but it was an absolutely horrible time for him. And it's absolutely not worth it to overshoot your tires, and just pit at the halfway point, play it safe, and hope for the very best, especially in the GT300 class. Has Clark just overtaken Alvarez just like nothing else? Yeah, he did. Reyes.
I think that's the advantage of the newer tyres, definitely coming in useful. Clark, of course, unlike the NASCAR for you earlier this evening, these tyres are able to be warmed, so they can be almost to optimal temperature straight out of the blankets. And 26 seconds to Valente. I'm not too sure about the pit delta, but I think a couple more seconds as they. Oh dear, Sven Gillerhood. That's a rare mistake from the Dutch driver. The championship leader, that could be massive. If he's got damage now, that could really harm his pace throughout the rest of this race. And, well, Reyes could be rubbing his hands together in celebration as that could be...
What's in the pits? I'm sorry, I have to check where he's coming out. And it is... Oh my god, this... Assetto Corsa thing, it's... it is quite complicated, I'm sorry. But I think Valente, he just kept the lead. So no undercut working for Clark. And Valente just keeping it straight. Sorry, back to Gillerhood.
Well, Gillerhood having a little bit of a nightmare there. I think he's still going to have the pace when it comes to the pits. No, he's been in the pits for a very, very long time. Indeed, he's out of the pits now. That was a very, very long pit stop from Sven Gillerhood. And, oh dear, that's going to harm his lead. That's for certain. 30 seconds to the leader, though, so that isn't insane in terms of how much time he's lost. And he should still keep the lead in GT300. But Carlos Frau is yet to pit as well, I believe.
No, he was in the pits. He was just ahead. That's perhaps why Sven Gillerhood has messed up. Because there's a small kink in the pit lane. We just saw Sven Gillerhood go straight ahead for whatever reason. Super odd. Never saw that before, but So
that means that Sven Gillerhood has really lost in the pits?
Absolutely.
I thought there's no way mathematically
he lost about 20 seconds.
Oh dear, that's disappointment for the man who has won every single GT3 race apart from one this season, championship leader. And, well, it's just slipping away from him ever so slightly. Ross Clark is another person who's been so dominant in the last couple of races, and now he's got a 2.3 second gap. He did gain with the undercut, but he didn't gain quite enough, and it has to feel that his race is just slipping away from him now.
Let's see, Moises Reyes, he was in a fight with Sven Gillerhood. Is he coming to the pits? Yes, he does. Exactly at the halfway point. As I said, keep it safe. Oh, that was a slight lockup as well, but of course not as costly as Sven Gillerhood. Let's see where he comes out. How much ahead of Sven Gillerhood, I have to say. There's one BMW missing as well. I think he's into the pits. Yeah, we can see that. Let's see if I can find a better camera. There's one of them. And the other one should be around somewhere too. Kilian Sattler just into the pits, and Olivier Ferry just keeping on. Okay, that's very interesting. So they split strategies. Oh, there's Sven Gillerhood. So, I think
So he hasn't
I
lost.
think I've spun in the wrong direction once again. Now, Sven Gaylord, he's still leading, but he's lost massive amounts of time to everyone else around him. Where did Grace lose all that time, though?
So I don't think Gilhood will be too displeased, actually, as he's only lost to the GT3. And it's kind of worked out quite nicely for him, in all fairness, because whilst he's lost to RACE behind slightly, he's still got a buffer, and now he's got clean air to the GT300 cars, so he can actually go faster in time. Even though he's lost out on the overall podium, I don't think it will mean too much for him, as he still, of course, picks up the race win.
But has RACE lost so much time just on the track? That's really surprising. I mean, Gaylord was dominant. I said that in qualifying. We said that in qualifying. That Gaylord is absolutely on the edge in the GT3 cars, nearly taking it up to the GT300 cars. But that surprised me, to be honest.
Yes, for sure. And, well, of course, this is our first Assetto Corsa Championship. And, well, I should mention the career summary of Sven Gilhood. He won the GT4 Cup this season, I believe.
Yes.
2 races, 2 wins, 2 poles, 2 fastest lap, and 2 podiums. 50 points. And
in 5 races.
somehow. Something wrong with that. But he did win the GT3 Cup nonetheless. And, well, he also apparently won... oh, sorry, that's the GT4 Cup results. Confusing way to read this, and that's my fault. I apologise. Wasn't reading the thing properly. But pretty good, successful career so far in RACE9 for Sven Gilhood. And he looks like he's perhaps going to extend his championship lead here. I don't believe Miranda's even racing this weekend.
No, he said before that that he's not racing. I'm not entirely sure why, but yeah. I'm going to dig it up while you keep us posted about Gabriel Prado.
So Prado, number 52, the Audi, a lovely little livery there. And his headlights aren't ablaze like some of the other drivers who choose to run with the headlights on, as it does go into the late afternoon, early evening, in the twin ring Motegi circuit. Of course, it started about hour, and it's now 8 minutes past 9 UK time. In the game, it was 5 o'clock when we started. I'm about 40 minutes into this race. And, well, he's not quite around anyone here. He's got about 2 seconds ahead to Oliver Ferry, the Frenchman who has ran fairly decently in this series so far. Well, he's a Belgian driver, I apologise.
Yeah,
5th position this time out in his debut race. So he's been running pretty nicely so far, and he'll be hoping he can keep up these moderate points finishes, as he's being put a little bit of pressure on by Prado, but I don't think Prado is particularly concerned about that as it stands. He'll be trying to get the position, but I think he'll be happy with 9th nonetheless, because I have it as his debut race. I can see him on the standings.
Gabriel Prado, yeah, one of the debutants, giving a good show all around for OS Front Row. I think he's leading OS Front Row car, and one of the very few remaining. We had more of them at the start. Andre Light is one of them. Unfortunately, one of the retirees, as we saw after his spin. Also retired Darnell Bacon from the United States of America. He was kicked from the server. That's very odd. Never saw that in Assetto Corsa before. But yeah, big shame. Also, Taylor Wallace just apologized to Alfie Biven, so perhaps something has happened there. But he's still in the race, so he's just chatting out of the cockpit, I assume.
These GT3 cars are quite clumsy when you don't get them quite turned up. They are very difficult to get turned in. Of course, they have got both traction control and anti-lock brakes, but whether some of the drivers are choosing to run those or not, I'm not too sure. One of the biggest skills about GT3 cars is driving around the assists. All of the GT3 drivers are taught drive around the assists. They are there, but they're there to keep you consistent. They aren't there for you to kind of take the mickey and drive like you're on a controller.
That is absolutely correct. Yeah, GT3 cars, they are not the fastest in the world, but they are quite tricky, as I have learned last time around. But yeah, it is fascinating, and it can produce some super amazing racing, as Tyler Wallace has also fallen back behind Leo Ehrlich, I think. that is. Let's see if we can get him in picture. Here we go. Also another debutant.
Of course, GT3 was brought in the sort of early 2010s to, if I'm correct, to replace the GT1 cars, which were getting a little bit too expensive. And they brought in GT3 as a kind of way to unify all of the so-called Cup cars, for example, the Porsche Cup car, and things like that in the Lamborghini. And all the single-spec makes were brought up to spec in the new GT3 class. And, various different championships were brought there, and obviously they started running them at things like the 24 Hours of Spa and the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. Of course, it kind of didn't work exactly as they expected, with Porsche Cup continuing on with slightly lower spec than GT3 cars. But nonetheless, it's been a very successful discipline of racing, with the GT World Challenge being one of the more popular racing series around. And of course, they are ran as GT300 cars in this Super GT racing and GT Asia on this game, as we've called it. And it's a very, very nice class of racing indeed.
I agree on everything you said, but the fact that GT3 cars are around since 2005, 6, 7, somewhat like that.
Are they?
Everything else you said is absolutely right. And thank you for your nice words about the GT Asia. Yes, we saw Pablo Lopez in the background going into the pits. He was there and made his mandatory pit stop. You said it, keeping the softs until lap 20 or something. He just tried that. And I was saying in NASCAR before, of course, not everyone was able to catch that. But in NASCAR, I said Pablo Lopez is always playing the I stay out as long as I want, as I can game, as Taylor Wallace and Leo Ehrlich fight on. That is 4P13 on track. Alfie Bevan into the pits. Oh, that's an overlap going on. Leo Ehrlich into the gravel trap, but yeah, that was quite close. I think Taylor Wallace wouldn't have seen the blue flags in all the blue that surrounds him, apparently. And
I will concede to doing the GT3 on memory, and the fact that these cars are older than me is a little bit concerning, but that's not the point. As, of course, I was thinking 2013 as when the sort of...
Yeah, then they took over the FIA GT World Championship Cup thing series.
Yes, and Mercedes kind of came in with the GT3 into that kind of 2013, and that's when modern GT3 kind of started.
Yes, okay, yeah, I can agree on that, definitely.
And as I said, I was completely going off memory there, so I think I did fairly well, considering it was an estimated a guesstimate, I suppose you could say. But 1.9 seconds the gap between Alessandro Valente and Ross Clark now, and I think Ross Clark has kind of just conceded that he's going to get P2 here, even if he has got the fastest lap of the race.
I think he has cut down the gap in the last few laps. That's a correct way to put it. So I'm not entirely sure if he's completely given up. Also, Valente, I think he has had some troubles with overlapping other cars, and that can throw you off the rhythm quite massively. And it's if you're that late into the race, we have just passed the 1 hour mark, if I'm not completely wrong. No, we haven't. 45 minutes mark. That's that's the thing I meant to say, of course. If you're that late into the race, it can become quite hard to get back into some sort of rhythm. And perhaps Ross Clark just saw the light at the end of the tunnel and is not trying to, or the sun at the end of the straight, I shall say. So we got blinded once again by the beautiful sunset here in Japan. Ross Clark was trying to reel in Alessandro Valente once again.
Well, it's supposed to be the land of the rising sun. It's definitely the setting sun here, but nonetheless, Japan living up to its stereotype. And well, we're here with this gap slowly eking down. Whether he's going to have the pace to get that gap down over, he was 1/10 faster, Alessandro Valente, on that previous lap. So whether Ross Clark is going to be able to get that gap down, that huge gap, over the next 10 laps or so, we'll have to see. But I can't particularly see it happening unless Valente makes a very rare mistake.
Is that because of the sun that you can't see it?
See what, sorry?
Is that because of the blinding sun that you can't see it coming down the gap?
Oh, very funny. Yes, I suppose.
Sorry, I think that's my dollar into the spelling jar now. Right. Let's focus on racing instead of making jokes, because that's what we're here for, and that's what we can do best, I assume.
Well, judging by our 2 lines that we've said in this particular broadcast, I think yes, racing is definitely what we do best.
Right. Sven Gatehood, easily dominating GT3 class, of course. And where's the next one? Alfie Devon, no, he's a lap down. Pablo Lopez, GT300, and here's the next one, Moises Reyes, the Spaniard, one of the many Spaniards in this race for CMP Corsa in the Audi R8 LMS B4, is it? I think that's B4. I'm not entirely sure though.
And it will be, sorry to cut you off there, it will be the best finish of the season for Moises Reyes, who got 3rd, 4th, and 3rd in the last 3 rounds. The only 3 rounds he's done. Of course, this will match Sven Gillerud's best finishes. He got a trio of wins, and this will be his 4th win in a row. To say that GT3 has been dominated would be an understatement. That's the Mercedes having to go, well, gets lapped quite poorly there, as Alfie Bevan has stopped and is reversing into the pit lane. I'm not sure you're allowed to do that, but he's done it nonetheless. Because, oh dear, what has happened here to Alfie Bevan? He's 5 laps down, he's having an absolute meal of it. And no, I don't think this is allowed under the regulations. He's reversing quite a way back into the pit lane, and that's definitely against regulations, and I think he'll have to retire or at least get a hefty penalty for that, for erratic driving.
Yeah, sometimes you just call it a day. He was struggling so much in the early stages, and of course he made it past the 50 percentage mark. Even if he's 5 laps down, that means he got 19 laps in, so he's going to score points. That's the very least you always want to do. No, you have to count out the GT300 cars as well.
Oh yes, of course. That's my mistake.
All good. That's why I'm here for, to correct you on on mistakes that I made. What? Okay. Anyway,
it's confusing because in most sort of timing towers, you always get a separation between the classes. It's difficult to do the mental maths.
Yeah, I think. Sorry.
It's my racing driver excuse anyway.
Racing driver excuses. Getting them in the commentary box. Okay. I think I have to speak to Carlos Frau once again to get that once again sorted, because we had a very nice little way of distinguishing the GT300 and GT3 class in the timing tower to the left, where the GT300 cars had a yellow background, but that's not a thing anymore apparently, and now we are stuck with a unified tower, which is of course not too bad, but let's see what's going on here. That's
Support for Sven Gillerud in the chat. Unite 10 said expressed his support for Sven, as Sven does look pretty keen to pick up this race win. He's P4 overall, and I expect him to stay there. He's got a bit of a gap to Carlos Frau ahead, someone he looked like he could have challenged for the overall podium, but I don't think it'll be too much concern for Sven, who's going to pick up the GT3 win anyway in about 6-7 laps time.
Alfie Bevan, meanwhile, has just said that he's struggling so much on the track that he just entered to get it done with, and he's not retired yet, but I think if he's already chatting in our Discord, I think that tells the whole story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perhaps sometimes it is.
Sorry, just go ahead. While we speak of our Discord, you always advertise it so nicely, so please, do your thing.
Oh yes, of course. If you want to join this league, you can go to RACE9.eu and you'll be able to see all the information you need there. We've also got a lovely little wiki that I've been using to give you all these statistics. The statistics, such as Alfie Bevan, who's 4th in the championship, this will be by far his worst result of the season. He's got 2nd, 6th and 4th. It won't be his first retirement, however. He did retire when he got his P6, albeit 50% of the race had passed, so he did get points for it nonetheless.
Yeah, that was at Suzuka, and he was running out of fuel in the last lap. He was stalling, I think, before 130R, and he would have scored 3rd. Was it 3rd or 4th? I'm not entirely sure anymore, but he ran out of fuel in the very last lap, and was sitting there a little bit helpless. Now I think his internet connection is also giving up as he's warping around the track.
And I think it's about time Alfie Bevan called it a day, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, same. At this point, perhaps same. Okay, that's it. West Race will certainly not be too happy to see Alfie Bevan lagging ahead. Also, although I have to say, Alfie Bevan, of course, is teammates with Sven Galehood, and in theory, Race is the second GT3 car on track in order. But yeah.
As we head very much into the back end of this race now, as he has to get out of the way, Moises Race, rather quickly, as he does, and race a lot later than him. I think Moises Race will be wanting to get on with getting away from Alfie Bevan rather quickly, given the lag that's the other is experiencing. And now we're going through the field trying to find something that's happening. And,
it's not that easy. It has fanned out quite a lot, which is surprising. The tightest battle that we have on track is for P1 and 2.
As that gap still is failing to come down. Clark, who got that pole position in such emphatic fashion, but clearly Alessandro Valente's race setup is just a little bit too much for not the championship leader, the third place man in the championship, or fourth place, I think. Nope, definitely third place. So here we are then, 27 of 32 laps, well, 26 laps completed. We're on lap 27 of lap 32. 150-kilometre race this is, and well, there's been a mistake for Ross Clark. It's 5 seconds, that gap now. Something has happened to Ross Clark.
Oh, something has happened to Ross Clark. Let's see. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Sorry, I was focusing on the chat once again. Unfortunately, we don't have a replay on Assetto Corsa, but I think at this point it's gotta be even more sealed, unless Alessandro Valente messes up at some point. But from his driving and also Ross Clark's driving until that point, it's gonna be a tough call. Has he perhaps lost his tires? Ross Clark has pitted quite early compared to everyone around him. And I said tire degradation is quite a thing, especially in the GT300 cars. So perhaps it's the tires going down.
The body language of his car looks just a little bit worse than that of Alessandro Valente. It looks like he is perhaps struggling a little bit on the tyre wear. Whether he'll be able to get to the end or not, we don't know. We think he will. And Ross Clark doesn't seem like the kind of person who would come into the pits to ensure he gets to the end. I think for him, he'd rather be second or DNF. He doesn't want to be in between, as Alfie Bevan's still making a meal of it in the pit lane.
Also, Carlos Frau is not too far behind, so even when Ross Clark dives for the pits, Carlos Frau certainly is going to pass him. And Ross Clark, that's the last thing Ross Clark actually wants.
Of course, any points gained on Carlos Frau is good for Ross Clark, as he did join the championship 2 rounds into the season. Someone said amazing race for Valente, and I agree. Valente has had an absolutely storming drive. 155.7 for Ross Clark. His tyres must be absolutely ruined. That was 3 seconds slower than anyone else in the field, pretty much, or anyone else in the top 5 at least, on that previous lap.
Yeah, he's not losing too much time at this, not anymore. But it's still one. As he's running wide once again, his tires must be done. So much. Pablo Lopez, if he re-watches that race, he's gonna feel the pain. But anyways, Ross Clark's tires gone, and Carlos Frau is not making too much ground into him. So I think that's damage limitation. If he just drags it around the circuit until the very end, a little bit more than 4.5 laps to go for his Subaru. But yeah, tell you what, Alessandro Valente is going to be celebrating that one.
4.5 laps of absolute agony for Ross Clark. This is when sim racing isn't fun, and it's in fact just absolutely painful. He just wants to see that checkered flag as soon as possible, and it's not coming anytime soon for him. 27 laps completed for Alessandro Valente. We're on lap 28, and well, we're about to complete lap 28 in not too short of a time. And, as he heads down the old pit lane here at Twin Ring Motegi. Well, not the old pit lane, but the alternate pit lane.
One of the many pit lanes, you could say. Oh, there's a fight going on for P10 at the moment. Let's quickly switch to that if we can find it. 8, 9, 14, 9, 10. Here we go. Nick de Villiers, I think, has he gone to the pits again? And Carlos Alvarez right behind him. Nick de Villiers with a new team. Previously it was Team NDV, which is, of course, his initials. And now joined up with Leo Ehrlich and found out the new team. Now running on the German flag. Sorry, go ahead.
And no, sorry, that's completely my fault. I thought you'd finished, but Discord kind of lag thing going on with its voices. It's always had the issue. And well, he's one of the drivers that's actually chosen to run the mediums in its second stint. The entire field was on softs in that first stint. Perhaps some of them decided that it just wasn't enough to get to the end on the soft tyres, so he decided to go for the mediums. Carlos Alvarez, though, means that he has got the better tyres than Nick de Villiers. And I think Alvarez will be looking to make that move for P10. Of course, P10 overall sounds a little bit better than P11. It's quite miraculous how one position can change the complexion of a race so much for a driver.
Yeah, especially if you make it into the top 10, you basically make it into the top half. Oh, we've got 19 cars, okay, so 9.5 would be the half. But if you round it up, top half is, of course, always better than bottom half, isn't it?
Yes, I think everyone rounds quite lucratively when they're explaining to their friends where they finished in a race.
Well,
if there was a race with 7 people and you finish 5th, yeah, I have 5th out of 10.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you finish a podium, as Jesus Chirinos did in NASCAR before. Don't tell anyone that it was just 5 cars, but
Yes.
it was a podium.
Question for Tom: have you ever watched Stuart Little? No, I haven't actually. It's not particular kind of thing that interests me. I've heard of it though.
That's quite a meme going on, so kudos to everyone who's just asked that. Meanwhile, Cristian Alvarez is really reeling in. Nick de Villiers just ahead. What? Anything else happening in the chat at the moment?
Well, no, I mean, why Stuart Little of all things have been a meme? Goodness knows. It's
also a very interesting username. I just read that.
Yes. There's a reason I was choosing not to read out the identity of the person who sent that message. But anyway, Carlos Alvarez closing in a little bit on Nick de Villiers. They've got 1 minute 45 to the race lead, who's completed lap 29. There's about 3-4 laps left now. And, still laps of pain for Ross Clark, who's actually been able to make a bit of a move. He's now 6 seconds on the 7 seconds behind Valente. Perhaps his tyres has gone through some kind of graining phase, and now they're being set back to life a little bit. But I don't think the game's tyre model is perhaps too in-depth for that.
Or it is just the 2 laps difference, or 1 lap difference that Valente had, because he pitted 1 lap later, and now Valente's tyres are already gone as well. Carlos Frau also struggling so much on the tyres. He's losing even more time than everyone, than both of them ahead, and compared to the leader. I mean, of course, Valente's not going to lose out to himself, is he? But GT300 cars really struggling with the tyre wear at the moment, and Sven Gehlhut easily dominating GT3. So yeah,
it does feel like a little bit of a tiptoe across these GT300. They, as we said, their body language doesn't look quite as good as it did in the previous stint, and I think they're all would be quite excited to get this race over with.
They all are now really upset that they didn't choose the the medium compound, which is of course always an option, but I think in GT300 it's rarely chosen. I did that mistake once. It is slower. It is quite a lot slower.
Yes, and whether you'd be able to make up that ground on lap 31 of 32, we're on the penultimate lap of the race now. Is very much up for debate.
We are, and also with that field spread that we unfortunately have, but it has still been a good one. I think no one of the GT300 cars cares anymore anyways. Looks like the field has been set in stone for these guys, and we are now just basically counting down the laps until we get this done. The only thing that's really up for grabs now is for Carlos Alvarez, as Nick de Villiers makes a small mistake that really let Alvarez gain ground to the car in front. It's Audi versus Mercedes. These guys, of course, in German makes, but none of them is from Germany. And it's Very, very, very neat little battle at the very end of the race.
Nick de Villiers on to match his best finish of 10th in a race, and in fact this will be a little bit better for him because that was 10th in class, so this will be a better finish for him than he has ever had in this series. He's retired and got 10th in the 2 races he has done. Alvarez is looking to spoil the party though, and well, as I have it, this would be Alvarez is one of his worst finishes of the championship, 6th, 5th and 9th. So not perhaps to the heights that he would like to be at, but he's spun. And that was really, you could see that happening. And that's just not helped him at all. And well, that battle has been kind of quelled.
Yeah, that's a battle over. And now we, as Nuadili makes one more pit stop. We haven't spoken too much about him. He's just making his second appearance in GT Asia as he crosses the white line at the pit exit. That's not good, to say the least. Ross Clark, meanwhile, on to the last lap, as is this man from UK or Italy. We don't know for exact to be exactly sure.
I can. I believe it is Italy. I've commentated on before. Flag note. So I think we'll go with it.
We had a bit of a discussion going on last week in the admin booth, but I think we're just going to ask him at some point. He also registered, meanwhile, as Kenyan, but I'm quite sure that's not correct.
I've never particularly met a British person called Andrew. It's a very Italian-sounding name, nonetheless. But how his name sounds is the point here is he's had an absolutely dominant drive. Ross Clark threw everything he had at him today. And, well, it simply was not enough. After second position in qualifying, Valente looked like he wasn't going to have the pace for Ross Clark. But his race pace was just too much for Ross Clark in the end. And, well, he's not going to cross the line here. This is the old pit lane. He's going to go around the final few turns, 3-kilometre racetrack. And, well, I'm sure it will be the longest few kilometres of his life.
Absolutely.
Just wants to get finished.
Especially as Ross Clark was reeling in a little bit. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Tom takes over the line.
And here he is across the line then. Dominant drive for Alessandro Valente. 150 kilometres of the twin ring Motegi. And it was 150 kilometres of the lead. Ross Clark finishes in second position. Agonisingly close to that P1, but it just wasn't enough with the tyre wear. Championship leader maintains his championship lead, Carlos Frau, and he is driving for the championship now. He makes it, well, every round but one in the last 5 rounds. He's got a podium, and he gets another one here. Sven Gillerhood, however, continues his dominance. It's 4 from 4 for Sven Gillerhood, and he's coming across the line to continue his dominance of the GT3 category in GT Asia. And what a lovely little race we've had this evening. What a double header we've had this evening.
Yeah, it was absolutely... NASCAR was more exciting than expected, and this one was also more exciting than expected. So yeah, I'm happy with that. And if I wasn't racing in this series, I would certainly have enjoyed you guys commentating on it. But I enjoyed commentating this one as well, as Moisturize rounds out the finishes in second actually in the GT3 class, just ahead of. Can we find him? No, Kilian Sattler's gone. Here we go. Kilian Sattler rounds out the podium. That's the first podium for the German in the series, if I'm not completely wrong. In the class, of course. Finished 7th on track, and yeah, it was a pleasure. Tom, what about you?
Oh, it's absolutely spectacular. Of course, Moises Reis gets second position in the championship after that result. And, well, Sattler has clearly ran out of fuel or something, but he's got over the line, and that's all that matters. What a race we've had, and I believe we're going to get some interviews momentarily. Well, a few donuts for Sattler, and a few donuts for his teammate Sven Gillerhood there as well. So a rather satisfying race for those two. And Ross Clark is disconnected. He's out of here. He isn't too interested in continuing. Well, he'll feel disappointed at that. It could have been a lot more for the Brits wasn't to be. His championship challenge isn't over yet, though. It would be a miracle if he got the championship from this position, 40 points behind, heading into the second half of the season. Well, crazier things have happened in sim racing, is a phrase we've been using a lot today, but it is probably an appropriate phrase.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. We got some interviews ready, and we're going to start off with the overall winner.
So, Alessandro Valente, first things first, we should ask, are you Italian or are you British? Because there's been a bit of a discussion amongst the admins.
Well, I live in Britain, but my parents are Italian. Well, my dad's Italian, so yeah, man.
Well, I suppose the mystery continues then.
Yeah.
Yes, so you must be pretty chuffed with that result. 5.5 seconds, the gap at the end, 150 kilometres, and you led all 150 of those kilometres. Talk us through your race.
I mean, the start was good. I got him in the first corner, but I got pretty scared because I felt like I was holding him back, because he was really close, within a second at one point. But I think he made a couple mistakes, so I just managed to stretch the gap out. And with the pit stop, I gained a couple seconds too, so it was pretty good.
We noticed that the GT300s are both struggling with a little bit of tyre wear throughout the race. How was that for you? You seem to manage it quite nicely.
Well, it was all right up until the very last lap, and they dropped off. I was losing, I think, 1.5 seconds by the end of the stint, so I had to come in pretty urgently. So,
of course, you did go longer than Ross Clark, and we said that Ross Clark's best chance of winning was probably through the overcuts, but you managed to prove why the overcut was worthwhile by gaining a lot of time in him as he came out through... he pretty much came out in traffic, so you were able to just avoid that, and I guess you can enjoy your win.
Yeah, thanks, man.
So that was Alessandro Valente, your race winner in GT300. I think we've got to cover soon.
And we have race winner in GT3 class, Sven Gehlhut.
Hello.
Sven, you've got 4 from 4 now.
Yeah.
And, you must feel like this championship, you're running away with it a bit here.
I mean, I am, to be fair. I am. Maybe I'll race with a wheel next time as well, so...
Whoa, was that on gamepad again?
Yes.
Oh my...
Wow. Well, how you can be so fast on that, goodness knows, but very well done on your win. How did you find the tyre wear?
My tires were good for pretty much half the race, exactly. So yeah, exactly the right strategy for the softs. Just about managed to pull off the one stop, so that's good.
I suppose you feel like you are in good standing for the rest of the championship now, and to hopefully pick up the win in 5 rounds' time.
Yeah, of course. Definitely going for the win.
So you're gonna win the GT4 Cup. So you're gonna win the GT3 class. Then what's next?
Well, if there's a GT2 series next, I'll probably win that one.
So thank you very much, Sven, and we'll speak to you next week. Hopefully, if you've won again.
Yep. See you next week.
So that was race winner in GT3, Sven Gehlhut, who seems to be running away with the championship a little bit, and I think we'll have one more interview, will we not?
Do we? Have we someone ready?
No. Okay, then. I suppose we'll end it there.
Yeah, we do. Race winner started.
If you've got any final words, Constantin.
It was an absolute blast commentating with you. I really enjoyed that. Thank you very much for spending time here in the booth, Tom. And then again,
welcome.
Thank you everyone who's been on the track today. It was absolutely so much better than I've expected. And next time I will whip everyone's bottoms on the track.
Very diplomatically put. And I think that's all from me as well. I can also thank Constantin for having me on RACE9 once again for this double header. It's been a lovely little afternoon of racing. So after a spectacular NASCAR race, we had a spectacular GT Asia race. So that's all from me. And I guess we'll thank you all very much for watching. And we'll see you all later.